Welcome back to the talk show of William Angliss Institute SLIIT. Today I am in Cinnamon Bentota Beach. We call it a magnificent and spectacular Bentota Beach. So it's a superb property, it has a legend and it has a history too. I have here Mr. Donald Wingell, the general manager, to talk about this hotel and his career and his prospect towards the industry. Hi Donald. How are you?
Hello, Kasum. It's good to have you with us and welcome to the Cinnamon Bentota Beach.
Thank you. So, Donald, your success story is so impressive. You are in China, Indonesia, Singapore, Canada, India, and Sri Lanka. Am I correct? The list is correct.
Absolutely.
Right? And you're a hotelier from Asia Fest in different branding. Fairmont, Crown Plaza, then Intercontinental, and the list is vast. Why don't you talk about your career, from where you started?
Absolutely. First and foremost, let me welcome you. It's good to have people like you here to come and explore this wonderful property. It's a long story, but I'm going to make it as brief as possible. I came into this industry at a very young age, so that means I've spent a lot of time. It's almost 32 years that I've been working in hotels across different continents. And we go into the details of it at another time. But I can tell you that during this period that I started off with Indian group of hotels, with Taj Group. And then when I immigrated to Canada, I had to find a proper foundation for a hotel as such. So I was lucky enough, I had some good mentorship. So I got into Fairmont Hotels and worked with them for a long period of time. I was with Fairmont for about 8.5 years. And
up until Singapore?
Up until Singapore.
Up until Singapore.
Yes. And so I transferred from one property to another property within Canada. And then I did a few task force assignments. Mostly with openings and rebranding. Fairmont was a growing brand. And then when I landed in Singapore, it was a big rebranding with the Raffles becoming Fairmont.
Raffles Convention Center, no?
Yes.
That's quite interesting.
It was Raffles Plaza. It's a big complex actually with almost 1,400 rooms. And they had the convention center. So we were a task force put together in Ottawa and Toronto to say, we are the Canadian company. Fairmont was a Canadian company until recently. So then when we moved into Singapore, it became a huge change for us as a company because we are the first hotel in Asia. Otherwise, it's predominantly North America and Europe. And it so happened that the company was growing, so there was opportunities for me to go to China and do a pre-opening of a Fairmont while I was in Singapore. So I was exposed to the China market. And then when I got back to Singapore, then I moved into Shangri-La. As I wanted to get closer home, which was Mysore. I'm originally from Mysore. So they were opening a new hotel in Mumbai. I came with Shangri-La, worked with them for about 3.5 to 4 years.
So from east to west or west to east, I don't know, how do you call it?
It's a complete change. I had to adapt a lot because as I went from one country to another, I was evolving with people, getting to know people, the different cultural backgrounds, languages, but the common factor was people.
Common factor is people,
So that was a learning experience, but then it was as I kept moving, it was growing within me to adapt very quickly. And not just people, I think it's more than that, it's culture. Right? Getting to understand how it was in different Asian countries itself. I went back to Canada and I went back to Fairmont because that's closest to my heart as a company. And
second
then
home, I would say?
Sorry?
Your second home.
It was actually, now it is my home. Ottawa is my home now. So I went back to Fairmont and then over a period of time, I decided that it was, growing with me. I was growing with the company and then I wanted to get back to Asia I got an opportunity with Intercontinental as a corporate food and beverage director. I was based out of Bangkok and Delhi. So I would work for a couple of weeks in Bangkok, a couple of weeks in Delhi.
That's your Indonesian experience also?
That's when it came. Because after the corporate structure was kind of changed a bit, I went into operations again. And that's when I went back to Crown Plaza in Jakarta as a hotel manager. And then again explored opportunities within Indonesia because I was also a regional food and beverage champion with Intercontinental. That's when I got exposure to a lot of celebrity chefs. So I worked with many celebrity chefs, Michelin star celebrity chefs. And that's where my exposure with big restaurants, really branded restaurants came into effect. And I found it after a certain period of time that my challenges were more to be spread.
Yeah.
Then I went to China, did another pre-opening with Jumeirah, which is a good brand. Before I came back and decided that Sri Lanka it is.
Yeah.
So from China, I ended up coming back to Sri Lanka.
So that's very interesting. China to Sri Lanka. What makes you to come to Sri Lanka?
It was the property.
It
was Bentota Beach.
Bentota Beach.
Yeah.
The iconic.
I did a little research. It was not just another resort.
Okay.
First, it's got its history.
Yeah.
It's got the late Jeffrey Bauer.
We'll talk about that in detail in the talk show.
So that was exciting for me to come in and take up this opportunity.
So you are here for nearly 2 years now?
2 years now.
2 years.
Yeah, it's been 2 years now. Yes.
I'm sure you have a very busy life and hectic life, but still you need to find time for you. What do you do at your leisure time?
There's so much to do. I'm quite a keen graphologist, for example. So I study, understand people, even my own team when I'm working with. I'm a big reader of books. So this is one of my favorite spaces because I have a big collection here. And then I do travel a bit.
Okay.
So when I get time for myself, I like to travel. I like to move around and see the places where I work with. And it's become
you like
part
to
of my
mingle with the local culture as well?
Absolutely. Especially when it comes to food and art. I like to understand where it came from. History is a subject I'm very passionate about.
Okay.
I go back in time and that brings out a lot of my energies. Yes.
So is that all? Traveling and reading?
No, here and there music. Music is a part of my life. My son's my inspiration. He's 11 years old, so he gives me a lot of things to talk about. And that keeps me very busy. I do have a lot of other things that I can talk about, but these are predominantly what keeps me.
So when it comes to reading, what do you really read? What is your area that you read?
Mainly fiction.
Fictions.
Yeah, I'm big into mystery. Big into mystery. Jeffrey Archer, Alistair MacLean, even though the old timers, Ludlam.
It is old timers, but
even Ludlam, Robert Ludlam. So these are some of the authors that I would always go back to and try and go back to those kind of mystery novels.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bentota Beach Hotel or Cinnamon Bentota Beach. It's a significant and it's a lovely property. And I would like to hear from Donald about this hotel. This hotel has 51 years of history. So it's a superb hotel. You make romance, you can make family outing, and so on and so forth. Donald, it's your turn to talk about your magnificent property.
It's such a joy to think about how it came about. When I came here and started understanding the background of this property from the day it was opened to the history behind it, starting from the architect, the late Jeffrey Bauer, to the number of people that told me how they've been here. Either they were children when they came here, or they're much older now and they got married and came here.
I have a story for this. My mother was one of the guests 50 years ago for the opening, the grand opening. And of course, my brother came here for his honeymoon and things like that. This hotel is so into us. We were here on and off all the time.
Wonderful. There you go. So similarly, in the period I've been here so far, I've been meeting a lot of our guests, even international guests. I've met guests from Europe and North America and Asia who've been here before. This has always been the Bentota Beach property, Bentota Beach Hotel.
Bentota Beach Hotel.
So
BBH.
BBH. BBH is still called BBH in many ways, and people still call it BBH. I don't stop that. I'm happy. Yeah. So going back to the time when we started looking at the history, especially me started looking at the history, and I was talking to the architect now, Channa, who's Channa Daswata, yes, who's a student of Jeffrey Bauer, who's also in his own way a legend. So I spent a lot of time with Channa and Chamika, who works with Channa, to understand the intricate details about what came about this property and the people that worked with Channa and earlier with Jeffrey Bauer. We're talking about Lucky Sen and Nayaka. We're talking about Ina De Silva. We're talking about Ismat Rahim, the the painter where you see all these paintings.
Barbara Sonzuni.
Yes. So there's so many of them, and then as we go into our suite rooms, we go into our gallery, we go into our ballroom. It's not just the arrival; it is everything, including our restaurants, the new building that we put up on the West Block. So everywhere that we go, we have remnants of what it was and the grandeur of what it was, and we have tried to keep everything the way it was originally put together without losing its charm. There have been movies made here, there's TV serials made here, so we wanted to make sure that legacy continues.
This is the only location in the country which meets sea and the river together. It's a peninsula. Am I correct? So
Yes. And we wanted to make sure that we use that river as well to our biggest advantage. So we do have 2 piers, we've got the water sports, and then future we're also looking at getting chartered seaplanes coming.
You were chartering some time back.
We were, but then, and also helicopters.
Yes.
Helicopters were coming here, chartered flights were coming in from, Kandy and Colombo as well. We've had a lot of VIPs come here when we opened last year. We are hoping that those days come very quickly. But coming back to the architecture of this place, we have got 16 suites. Each suite is named after a certain element that we have, whether it's a pearl or it's cinnamon. And we have the suite, of course, which is named after late Jeffrey Bawa. So these are the things that brings back to life what
back
it was.
In the day, the swimming pool, looks like the upper part of Sri Lanka, So it was so nice to see. And this is a different edition here, right?
This is a new edition. This particular part of it, we want to bring in the elements of ivory and the windows. If you look at the carvings, it's all very elegant. In the late evening, you'd see when the lights are put in, the reflection that comes from the ceiling down here. And we want to bring in the light from the center piece, the center part here, the quadrangle that comes in natural light. So there's a lot of thought that went to it. Over the period of time, even when we were opening, we did make small changes. Which
back in the day, this was the banquet hall.
I believe so.
This was banquet hall back in the day. So.
Or it was an open area where people could come and have small meetings. And so, yes, and then if you also look at the arrival that we have, which it was not the same as earlier, but we brought in the element of music, local artisans who play music. We do have an artisan village as well that we brought back to life.
From Bintura itself.
From Bintura itself. So we have tied up with local community, we have tied up with the local artisans. That brings back the Birula work, and then we have
that's upon arrival you're trying to do, is it?
No, we have actually implemented that already. Now it's a part of the swimming pool area. We have called it the artisan space.
Okay.
So as part of the arrival, we do have the musicians. They're actually drummers that bring in the. There's a term for that. I'll have to get back to you on that. But there's a term where these 4 drummers actually beat the drums and welcome guests that every time they come into the hotel. So that is actually a unique experience by itself.
It is. The first impression is marvelous.
Yes.
Yeah. So the hotel itself has a legend. So what is the concept behind this hotel? I mean, the legendary Jeffrey Bawa has made it to a fortress back in the day. Still you maintain the same concept? Or?
We do, but what we did was we wanted to take the experience to a different level. What we position it to a different level. We didn't want it to just be a local monument or something that's just known in Sri Lanka. We wanted this to be on a very different level, making sure that the world knows that it's not just wildlife and the oceans that we have here. There's more to art and more to history. There's also luxury. So we decided that every aspect of this property was going to be put into a different segment, that we can explore it to the world and say we've brought in luxury at the same time. And the experience of the local beliefs and cuisines and authenticity.
So, which is really true. When you go to different part of this hotel, you find different feeling, different meanings to it. So that's what you're trying to say. That's
what it is. It's in bits and pieces that we made sure that everything that was initially thought about the vision of, the late Jeffrey Bawa, we wanted to make that into an experience.
So Ronald, Why did you select hotel industry? What makes you to come into this industry?
That's an interesting question, Kasum, because I never was meant to come into the industry. I was supposed to be an engineer. I was studying to be an engineer. I had a part-time job. And if you can go back to the past, India has never been a place where you can actually have part-time jobs. But then I was quite keen on getting into a hotel and learning how hotels work. So when I was working in that particular job, I began to like it more than what I was studying.
What was it, the first job?
It was working in a hotel.
Oh, working in a
I
hotel.
was an in-room dining order taker.
Okay.
So basically taking orders in room and they hired me because I could speak good English.
Okay.
So they said, okay, we got someone who can take orders now. It was a good, big luxury hotel. And in my hometown of Mysore, I was 18 years old and I was studying engineering. So what happened was I began to like the job more than my studies, right?
So you were an engineer, became hotelier. Yes. Am I correct?
That's right. Mechanical engineer. So there was a time came, I decided to just go forward and learn more about hotels. We didn't have the internet, so I had to make a few calls. So I called Bangalore. I found out the hotel management school was based in Bangalore, which is the Institute of Hotel Management. And then asked a few friends. While I was working in a hotel, I realized I liked it a lot more than what I was doing as studies. So I collected my courage. I went and told my parents that I want to go into a hotel.
What was their reaction?
Shocking. Yeah, because conservative thinking, India, son has to be an engineer or a doctor, right? It was either one of the two. And
no difference in Sri Lanka.
No difference too. It's more like that South Asian thing, right?
Yeah.
And they were shocked because the hotel industry in those days were not what it is today, right? It was taboo. It was like the wrong place to work. The uneducated people were becoming waiters, and why do you want to be a waiter? And you know how that is. So it was not accepted.
But you were trying to ruin our reputation. Those
family. What will uncle and auntie and brothers and sisters and cousins and what will they think? And it was all about that, right? The social standing. But I made the brave move. I made the decision. I wanted to do what I wanted to do. Then I came to Bangalore and started studying hotel management. So I went from being a chef which I started off the chef training program and then went into a diploma program, finished it and then wanted to do more than that. But that's how I got into the business because I knew I could travel.
When I read your profile, you are a certified revenue manager.
Food and beverage executive.
And Cornell University, you got revenue
management.
Why is this revenue management when you are in FME and things like that? Why all of a sudden revenue management?
I wanted to explore. I wanted to be more than just a food and beverage executive. And the certified food and beverage executive, which is promoted by the Educational Institute of the American Hotel and Lodging Association, is a very privileged exam to take and pass. It was quite challenging. I was very proud when I passed out of it because it's valid for 5 years. I've done it 3 times in a row. And then I decided that, okay, I am pretty good with food and beverage, but I want to learn more about revenue management. So that's when I studied with Cornell and revenue management.
So that is quite interesting. Hopefully you are playing big roles because of the revenue management skills that you have.
Absolutely.
Right now.
Yeah, my ADR is pretty healthy.
Yeah.
so I can break down the allocations of how much goes to the food and how much goes to the beverage and how much goes towards the room allocation. So I'm learning more.
The talk show of William Angliss Institute SLIIT, it's getting bigger and bigger. Now we are here in Bentota. I like to hear the impression about school. Donald? How do you feel about the school?
I have to be honest with you. I was very impressed when you first approached me, and I did a little study on William Angliss and did speak to some of the people that know your school very well.
Okay.
From the head office, human resources, our executive chef. I believe that it's a great thing that's happened to Sri Lanka.
Thank you.
You need to bring in that touch of international class and the level of execution of the studies. Times have changed from the old days of teaching people in a certain way to where it is now, especially the practical part. Because this industry is all about confidence and enthusiasm and passion and identifying that talent, which I think is phenomenal with William Angliss. And I have to say that it has given us students and we have seen how good they are.
Alumni.
Yes, yes. Ex-students of yours, the alumni. And also currently, I think we are planning to work very closely with you from a corporate side to try and get more students into our into training and come into our workforce. So, and then knowing from where it comes, I know your head office is in Australia. There's a lot of understanding of the faculty that is there, people such as yourself who have been in the business. It's always better to have someone who's teaching who's already been in the business, right?
Correct.
So then the empathy and the level of training is of a different category altogether.
So this is what you heard, this is what you read. It's an open invitation to you. Why don't you come and see the campus?
Absolutely. I will. I'm looking forward to coming and meeting all of you there and meeting your students.
Yes, of
I
course.
might actually pick up a few.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank
So,
you.
ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the talk show. Now, I would like to hear, or we would like to hear, his viewpoint to the industry. It's all to you.
It's a very interesting time for Sri Lanka, especially now with, other than what we are not going to talk about, COVID and everything else. But I think this is a turning point in the industry with a lot of international players coming into the market. Upcoming Grand Hyatt and Dusit and Intercontinental. These are good brands which drive for more tourists to come into the country. And after what I've seen in the 2 years that Lonely Planet, we've got mentions from Condé Nast, Travel and Leisure. These are premium hotel magazines that are talking about the industry, tourism industry in Sri Lanka. What better way to emphasize and treat our guests in this country than to have some students who have studied in a world-class institute. So I think that's where the focus is. And for us as Cinnamon Bentota Beach, we'd be very excited in working with students who can get exposure to events which are predominantly from outside of Sri Lanka, like MICE, like this ballroom that we are standing in. I think has got potential for being a destination wedding venue. It's also got a potential for being a MICE venue.
Convention centers.
Yeah, and international cuisines. We have got 3 expat chefs here for Indian, Italian, and Chinese. And we try to get those levels of quality in food and beverage. We're also looking at, in terms of our guest satisfaction scores, that we are right now #1 in Sri Lanka, and we are happy to have achieved that landmark in a short period of time. So this gives an exposure to a lot of students. So I think there's a future of homegrown professionals. You don't have to go to Australia or go to Canada or go anywhere else to study hospitality. You can study right here, and there are hotels that are going to give them jobs. So don't have to look too far.
Thank you, Donald. Ladies and gentlemen, please do not forget to subscribe us, also to put the bell mark on. Please see all our episodes, and we look forward to seeing you with another episode. Thank you very much.